Welcome into Sports Talk at the Stadium. Kevin McCrary here at Williams-Brice, where USC had a rare Sunday tilt against Georgia, and it wasn't the greatest Sunday stroll for the Gamecocks here at Williams-Brice. They didn't have an answer for Georgia's running game. They didn't have an answer offensively to be consistent. They certainly didn't have a running game of their own to counter Georgia's, and the result was a 28-14 loss. The Gamecocks had some chances late. It was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter, but you never really felt like the Gamecocks were going to win this thing. They just, when you get dominated on the ground, when you cannot stop the run, it's just demoralizing for everybody involved. I'm sure the players, the coaches, the fans, when another team is just pounding you with the run. And the Georgia Bulldogs hit him with Sony Michel. They hit him with Nick Chubb. They almost had 3 guys with 100 yards rushing. They just crushed it on the ground, and they didn't have to do much. Jacob Eason was very average as a quarterback, very pedestrian, but he didn't have to do much. He didn't look great, but he didn't have to look great. And Georgia just flat out dominated USC in that regard. And offensively, the Gamecocks, they only had 3 first downs in the first half, 3. They had more or as many turnovers as they did first downs in the first half. Just not a good recipe. You know that's not going to turn out well for you when you're playing against a team like Georgia that can move the ball, especially on the ground, and they have so many weapons. So it was a 7-point line going into this one. Did South Carolina take a step forward, take a step back? Hard to say at this point. It wasn't pretty. They haven't looked pretty really all year. They're not going to win pretty. They're certainly not going to lose pretty. So I think there's a lot of people now just trying to wrap their brain around what to expect going forward. And that's really where they are now. They're at the point where the bye week's coming up. They've got a winnable game against UMass on the other side. They have to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback, how much they're going to ride Orth, because McElwain didn't play at all. I was a little surprised there that he wouldn't get in for a series, but they were going to throw the ball. And, throwing the ball was what they were going to do, and it didn't seem to really work out to get McElwain in the game. So when Orth was out there, he looked average. He threw for 288 yards, but it wasn't a great performance by him. He held the ball way too long. I mean, he took some sacks that he didn't need to take. I thought the offensive line gave him time, and there were throws that he needed to make that he didn't make. And that's no huge knock on Perry Orth. He is what he is. He's very limited in what he can do in all aspects. He's a serviceable quarterback. He works hard. He knows the offense. And I think he gives USC their best chance when they have to throw the ball a lot like they did today, because they didn't have anything running. They had 30 yards on the ground. That's not going to cut it. So they're going to have to figure that out. I think Rico Dowdle is going to be a really good running back for them. I like what he brings to the table. He did lose a fumble. They had Deebo Samuel back. He looked healthy. He looked dynamic when he had the ball in his hands. He scored a touchdown. He had 2 really nice catches on deep balls. That's a positive for you. Brian Edwards continues to show in flashes what he can do. So there are some positives there that you can latch on to. And the Gamecock defense, they hung in there as much as they could. They did get some stops when they had to. They got a turnover there in the red zone. So I'm not going to sit here and paint some rosy, sunny picture, but I don't think it is just woe is me, and I know it's frustrating. This is a rebuild. You're in the middle of a rebuild. The good news is you're halfway through the season. Now, these next 6 games, if you're South Carolina, what do you want to see? You want to see improvement on both ends of the ball, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You want to continue to find playmakers. Like Dowdle emerging here after his injury, that's a good thing for the Gamecocks, because it looks like they are going to have a guy they can count on to run the football. I do think you want to see McElwain come back in some role and try to gain a little confidence, try to see a little bit more from him. You don't burn the red shirt on Jake Bentley. It's not worth it at this point, in my opinion, unless you think he can absolutely go in there and change your season, as in go in there and knock off a Tennessee or a Florida and get you into a bowl game, because this isn't a team right now that anybody sees bowling. I see 4 wins for the Gamecocks this season. maybe 5. Maybe they can squeeze out a 5th in there somewhere, but that's pushing it. I don't see this team going to a bowl game. And the only way you burn that red shirt for Jake Bentley is if he's a guy that can change things for that offense. And I don't think they're just a true freshman quarterback away from the light coming on offense. I do think they can get better. They had a couple of decent drives in the second half. They had a 90-yard drive, 12-play 90-yard drive. That's a nice looking drive. So it's there. You can see it in flashes that they have a little something if they can just capture that. But it's a work in progress, and that's what you saw out there. I don't panic, though, if you're USC. Ride it out. Look for the small wins that you can find in there. When I say wins, I'm not necessarily talking about on the scoreboard, but the little glimmers of hope that you can find, because that's where you are right now if you are South Carolina, because it's going to be tough sledding to get them on the scoreboard. I appreciate you checking us out here. It was very bizarre being here on a Sunday. Really strange atmosphere, nice crowd. Give it to the fans that came out. They had a nice crowd. They announced it over 77,000, and it was about that. Good crowd given the circumstances. So it was a interesting day with it being a Sunday. Everything that happened with the hurricane, fortunately, they were able to get it in. Fortunately, it looks like most everybody came through that safely, and we can get back to a regular schedule. You can check out what Will Muschamp had to say, have his comments for you on the website, and we'll have plenty of conversation as well as we move forward. If you want to share your take and can't wait till Monday, I posted the number for our What the Phone line on Sports Talk. You can give your hot take and let us know what you think about the game and how you see things going for the Gamecocks going forward. But as it stands, a lot of work for Will Muschamp and the Gamecocks in the bye week and going forward. But I'll keep in there. It's going to get better. I really do think it will get better before it gets worse for South Carolina. I think you have reached rock bottom and you're slowly crawling out. So I'd say small glimmer of hope that I'm sure that non-rational people won't take, but you rational people that are listening, it's going to get better. I promise. Appreciate you checking us out here on Sports Talk at the Stadium.